you don't have to do anything when someone dies. There's a big drive to like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And the best thing the hospice person said to me, and this is actually a book, so I encourage you to check it out. It's a book called Stay Close and Do Nothing. And I think we're so driven, especially in our culture right now, to do something about stuff. And when you're grieving, stay close and do nothing is such a great motto. I kept saying it to myself over and over and over again when my dad was dying. Know that you don't have to do anything, but almost even also if you're relating to yourself, just stay close to yourself.
Dying of laughter.
It's not funny.
My mom has stage 4 cancer in her bones and in her breast. My dad's disease was 15 years, he died of ALS. I made a podcast about death, seemed like the thing to do. And if you're sad by all of this, well, you're gonna die too.
Happy birthday to my dad. Moment of silence for the lack of response because he is not of this world. But alas, I think it's completely okay to acknowledge and even celebrate a birthday of someone who is no longer alive. Today I'll be going on a hike and getting a facial later this evening after I do all of my other things, groundlings and whatever else I'm doing to celebrate him. And I look forward to that. More thoughts on him specifically at another time. What up? I'm so excited to bring on Brian Patacca today. If you know him, you know what I mean. He is the most infectious, ambitious, fabulous life and career coach in Los Angeles, in my opinion, which only means so much to so many of you who don't know me yet. But he's been a coach on MTV's Made. He's training to be a reverend. He is super expensive, y'all, and we're getting him for the sweet price of free. His nuggets of wisdom are out of this world. I can't. We had sold a web project to Fox Digital many years ago together, him and I, so we go way back, and our dynamics are just like the gay BFF you always wanted but didn't have, but now have, but also don't have because they're so busy. They are also doing multiple other things / hanging out with other people that aren't you / you don't have any feelings about it at all. JK, LOL, no. No, really. He's the best. This is the best. His dad died of lung cancer. He's opening up about that and has some really great tips, tricks, and takeaways. And he really cares about people. He wants to help people. What a saint. What a godforsaken saint. God love him. God willing. God, let's move on and get to the interview.
Brian is a life, career, and business coach and spiritual practitioner for creative individuals of all disciplines. In addition to guest teaching and speaking all over the world, Brian will be recognized by the state of California as a reverend by the fall of next year. He is a spiritual practitioner in the tradition of A Course of Miracles and credits the work of Brené Brown, Anne Lamott, Pema Chodron, and Elizabeth Gilbert as foundations to the outlook on the world. With infectious energy and a no-nonsense approach, Brian Patacca brings a healthy dose of enthusiasm to a creative professional's career, life, and business. Notably, he coached 2 young actresses on MTV's Emmy Award-winning show Made in 2012 and has been a contributing expert for Backstage magazine for over a decade. Okay, so let's jump in. I am your friend, so I know things about you, but other people do not know things about you. I would love to hear a little bit more about the spiritual foundation of your childhood, and if you recall having a goldfish moment. And a goldfish moment is the first time...
I know what it is. Something died, right?
The first time you conceptualize death, and I think for some people it was a grandparent or their goldfish. Goldfish moment. Did your goldfish die? Goldfish moment. Did it make you cry?
Mine was a gerbil whose name was Tiger Gerbily Patacca. Yep. And Tiger Gerbily. That'd be like calling you Chelsea Persony. Brian Persony Patacca.
Did you name the gerbil?
Obviously. So, Tiger Gerbily Patacca. One day I woke up and I came into my mom's bed, and I guess I was like a little bit of a chunky kid for a little bit. Like I had a belly that I would stick out because I walked, whatever, and I would bounce my bed on my belly on my mom's bed, and she woke up, and I was like, Mom, I think Gerbily is sleeping. Which is usually not something to like talk about, but apparently she goes, okay, we went in there, and then he was dead. So we had to have a spatula moment.
What is a spatula moment?
Where you pick up the dead rodent in the aquarium living in your bedroom.
Wait, first things first. Why was he living in an aquarium? Like in the water?
A lot of gerbils. No, you don't put water in it. It's just an
Oh.
aquarium like a glass. There was a home laminated tombstone shaped like a tombstone. And I'm pretty sure all it said is, "Here lies Gerbily." And I wrapped it in saran wrap because, of course, no one has lamination at home. And it was under the lilac tree, and that was where Gerbily was buried.
How luscious that you had a lilac tree.
I know, right? It was cute.
So you're from Ohio.
I'm from Ohio.
Mentor, Ohio.
Metro, Ohio, outside of Cleveland. Yep, for sure.
And even today when I ask people if they know where it is who are from Ohio, the answer is typically no, not at all.
But you could just say Cleveland.
How far away is it from Cleveland?
Like 25 minutes.
Got
It's
it.
the Pasadena of Cleveland.
Mm.
But Cleveland's not a big city like LA, so it's not quite the Pasadena of Cleveland. But
I'm like, are you sure about that?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If you take them both down a notch, that's where I live.
Down a few notches.
Right.
Okay, so that was your first experience with death, Tiger, Gerbily, Patacca. And do you remember understanding that you would never see Gerbily again?
I think I was. Let's just be real honest. I wasn't, it's like a goldfish, as we said, right? My tie to the Gerbily was not maybe like heartbreak, right? I was not like dying over it, literally. But it was, but I was sad. I was sad because and I think I was more worried about him being sad or him being hurt. I think that was that he was like by himself or that
Aw.
he was in pain or something. I think that's what I kind of thought about when I thought about it.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
you buried him.
Then I buried him in a little box, I think.
Was your mom helpful in explaining this to you?
Was she? It's so hard to remember. I was little. She was. My mom was really great at she's like, she didn't sugarcoat it at all. Like, he died, and so he's not coming back. Otherwise, the only time I'd ever see death was probably like in a cartoon or something. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe a video game. Pac-Man was the only video game I think out in the world at that point. You know what death is at a young age, but you don't understand what it is. But somehow, its finality was clear.
Great. Do you think that children understand death innately, or is it something that is taught to them?
I think it's taught. I don't know how they're taught. I mean, there's a point when the child starts asking questions like, who's your mom? Mom, who's your mom? Who's your dad? Who's your, right?
Mm.
And my dad's dad was dead. And I was always curious about that when I was a child. I was like, what was it like? And I had all these questions, right? So I think that there's some point where we get that dying means you don't exist in the way that we're used to people existing for us. You can't see them or touch them or ask them questions or whatever, or at least in the way we understand it as children. So I think it is taught, but I think it's almost impossible for it not to be taught. Like, it'd be very hard to shelter a child from figuring it out, that it's a real thing, I think, right? You'd have to lie about your life and never let them watch TV and never let them see a bug get stomped on or something. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you have such an amazing career, as we've heard from the 15-minute bio situation.
I hope that you edit by the time people are listening to this.
I can't decide. The whole thing
No
might
one will
stay
stay
in.
listening, and that's not that interesting. Like, just get to the good stuff,
You're
which is
right.
us talking and talking about my gerbil.
You're right. You're right. It's so upsetting. Well, I think a lot of interviews really focus on the praise and the most exciting things that have happened in people's lives, which we will get there. But I think it's so fascinating when people in an interview just kind of mention, oh, yeah, and then that time was hard. And that's how I started my business because my dad died. And then they just move on to talking about the business. And I've always been like, wait, cut. Dad died. I want to hear about that. So you have so many supporters and people that are quite frankly obsessed with you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would never think of it that way, but I'll take it from you.
I would, because
Okay.
I'm one of them. So
Okay.
there we go. It's just me.
You guys, don't worry. She's not got pictures of me hanging on the walls in here or something.
Wow. Thanks for clarifying. So you have so many people who are so in awe of you, but I don't think a lot of people know about what it was like for you to lose your dad in your 20s.
And not at a mall, you mean, right?
Right. Not at a mall. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about what it was like growing up for you with your mom and your dad and how you got to the point of when he was sick.
My parents were not married. My parents were divorced when I was 7. So I had existence with my mom outside Cleveland, Ohio, and then I had existence with my dad outside of Philadelphia. And I had, I guess like it's not officially a stepmom, but his partner he was with, her name was Michelle, and so I had like two families in a way. I moved to New York after Northwestern, and when I was living in New York, my brother and I were home, and my brother was living in Ohio. We came home for some weekend. We were adults at this point. He was in college at that point. We came home for a weekend to Philadelphia, and my dad was like, I remember it very vividly. We're in the basement, and he said, I have lung cancer, and I'm gonna live for about a year. That's what they said.
Wow.
And I totally remember it. And it was
How old were you?
27 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very like, no. It was very like, no, that's not true. That's whatever. Like, no, obviously something will happen and you won't die in a year. Like, it felt very like, well, obviously something is going to happen in that year where that's not going to be what happens. That's kind of what I think I plunged into magical thinking a little bit. And my brother's young, like he was 18 or something, and maybe 17. And we had questions and we didn't understand. And, we asked him all about that. And then he was going on chemo, and we were visiting him, and it was very like, we didn't really necessarily talk about it again. And it
So
felt
were
like,
you flying home to
no,
see
so I
him?
lived in New York, so it was not that hard to take a bus or a train,
Okay.
because Philadelphia is 2 hours away, so I would do one or the other
Mhm.
pretty regularly. But he wasn't sick yet, so there was no need for me to rush down. It was just about like spending time together, and we had been doing that ever since I moved. So we were already spending time together, so it didn't necessarily change. And then when he got sick, things changed. So he had been on chemo, and then he came home, and he was sick at home, not in a hospital. And I would come home basically every weekend. And that was when, he was home for a long time. And when he went off chemo, he got strangely healthy for a little while and thought he was Mr. Ride his tractor around the yard. And it was a little not okay. Like, he just thought he was Mr. Healthy again. It was very bizarre. And my brother was staying there a lot. And I would go down and spend time with them. And my brother was going back and forth to Ohio. And then my brother decided to stay. And am I answering this question? What should I be getting to? Should I be getting to the moment?
No, I think this
You're
is really
great.
interesting.
And
If
then-
you're okay.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
okay.
And it was
Mhm.
hard. I mean, I had a job in New York City. I was going back and forth. I remember my friend was having his 30th birthday in Paris, and it was Memorial Day weekend. It was his 30th birthday, and he was having a birthday in Paris. I'm supposed to leave the next day. And I remember calling my therapist, and because we'd gotten the news that my dad was not doing great. I remember having the conversation with my therapist, Julie, and she was like, is it important for you to be there when he dies? Because that would be what I could possibly miss, like the moment that he dies. And I
Ah.
was like, yes. And she said, then I think you have your answer for whether or not you can go on this trip. So literally I had a bag packed to go to Paris, and I rolled that bag onto, I think it was a bus from the Chinatown bus in New York City, and took that same bag with me to go to Philadelphia and be there with my dad. And he did not die that weekend at all. Thanks, Dad.
What a waste of a trip to Paris.
Right.
That's so messed up.
But so he lived a year and a half, and I think they'd given him a year. My brother was ready to not be there anymore. We had a hospice nurse who would come and talk to us, and like a therapist who would come talk to us. And Scott talked to her. My little brother's name is Scott. I would make him talk to her because he wasn't really talking to anybody, and he was pretty vocal. Or he would just listen to me talk to her, which I thought was helpful. And he was ready to leave, and she said most people don't stick around that are his age, that are 16 to 18, like 20-year range. They disappear, like they can't be around it. So he was done. He'd been there. He'd been a really great trooper. He'd been there a lot of it because he was there consistently, even though I was going back to New York. So he was literally there with my stepmom and my dying dad. No friends, no nothing, like every day. There was a good part of the time where my dad was like talking. He wasn't like non-speaking body in a bed. He was like very with it, although he would get a little crazy and be like, move that stool over there. There was a little bit of dementia happening, which was a little weird.
Oh my gosh.
So he'd be
I
like, move that
totally know.
stool over there, and then move that stool over here. My brother's going crazy. He goes, I can't do this anymore. Dad's crazy. So,
But did he move the invisible stools?
of course. No, there weren't invisible stools. It was like, why am I moving this 100 times, Dad?
Oh, they were real stools.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah. And then he said to me, can I go home? And I said, it's up to you. I said, is it? And I said the same question my therapist said to me. I said, is it okay with you if you're not here when Dad dies? I said, have you said goodbye? And he said, yeah. He said, I'll be okay. So I was like, okay. And I don't think I was there when he got to leave, when he left and said goodbye to my dad. But then I came back up, and I stayed. I stayed in Philadelphia and I was like, now was the time it was going to be happening. So I stayed, and My dad was quiet. It was probably like 2 weeks of no talking. And, looking like pictures you've seen of people who are starving, basically. I woke up in the morning. There were dogs, and his dogs are noisy. But I woke up like early, like 6 or 7 in the morning. And my stepmom woke up too, and she's like, Brian, come here. And like my dad was making noise. We had his bed in the kitchen. There was a big kitchen, and so the dining room was basically his bed, and you could look out the skylight, which is really nice. But like he made this noise, and she's like, Brian, come here. And so I came in the kitchen, and he's there. He sat up straight in the bed, and his eyes popped open really, really wide, and he looked at me, and then he fell back in the bed, and he was dead. And that was it.
Wow.
And it was, and I just started crying, and I knew and I didn't know at the same time, because most of us don't have experiences being around dead bodies.
Fair.
Right? We see it a lot on CSI, things like
Fair.
that, right? And so I'm like, did it happen? I think it happened. Like, we don't know. Or like, we decide to call somebody that we know to come over and call the ambulance and all that stuff. And I think that up through that moment, I was still in my magical thinking brain. Like, I was still thinking this wasn't going to happen. Like, even when he hadn't spoken in 2 weeks, I was like, well, I had some part of me that was like, well, he's not going to die. That was just not part of what I imagined would be the way that it goes. Oh, and then I had to go. I remember this. This was the big thing. I had to go back to my bedroom to call my mom and to call my brother and to tell my brother our dad had died. And that was probably the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah. And to call my mom and tell my mom, that was tough too. I mean, mom and my dad did not have a contentious relationship after their divorce. And so my mom cared about my dad very much still. And that was really, really sad and hard. And yeah.
What did your mom say when you called her?
I don't know. I think I remember I think I might have called my mother first and then called my brother and said, I'm going to call Scott. I want to call him. I said, you can call him after I do. I mean, I think she said things like, he loves you very much. He's still with you. He loved you. When I called my brother, like, we were on the same time zone, right? He's in Ohio, I'm in Pennsylvania. Like, if I'm calling at 7 a.m., probably something's gone down.
Mm-hmm.
And so he cried right away, and it was sad. It was very sad. And then the hospice nurse had told me not to watch them take the body out of the house. Like, that's a thing you don't watch. And I was like,
oh,
I'm a fucking actor. At the time I was acting, I was like, I'm going to experience all the feelings.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to watch them take the body out. I'm not going to, like, some kind of, like, for my craft or something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
But actually it didn't, I think that it broke the magical thinking spell for me more than hurt me. I think I needed to see that it was real in that moment. Yeah.
What was the most challenging part of this experience, and what was an aspect that was perhaps rewarding or uplifting in some way? Not that there's an uplifting part of death, but you know what I mean?
The most challenging, so I'm going to say the most challenging, other than the fact that my dad died, I'm going to let that be the one on the shelf because that's the obvious, right?
Right.
I'll say that the most challenging part was, this is going to sound so mundane, but it was literally being in two places at once. Like, I wasn't in a place where I could not work. Like, I didn't have just money rolling around. Like, it's okay for you not to work. So kind of like going back and forth between New York to Philadelphia, it was challenging in terms of wanting to be there with him the whole time, and having to do that travel was kind of tough. Mm-hmm. And also there's no parent to parent you. There was no parent to parent me through it. Like, my mom was in Ohio. Right? My stepmom is my stepmom, and she's wonderful and whatever, but she's not really necessarily a parental figure in all of this. We would talk a lot, but it wasn't the same. So there was no one to parent me through this. I think that was the toughest part. Who do I call and say, what should I do? Right? And at this point, I think I was also single, so there wasn't like a boyfriend. And I think my therapist, thank God for my therapist, and phone calls to my mom, because I wouldn't have known what to do. Yeah.
I definitely appreciate you mentioning that, because I so identify, and I'm sure a lot of other people will resonate with that as well. I think it's really amazing that you found a therapist. Could you talk about how long you'd been in therapy, and did someone recommend her to you, or did you just take it upon yourself to seek out a therapist?
I got a therapist, and I think when I got the therapist, it was because I was wrecked, depressed over a breakup.
Ah.
And also, I think at the same time I had found out that my father was dying. So I was like, we got a double whammy here. And I had looked for, like, someone had told me about how to find affordable therapy in New York City. And I remember at the time she was, like, finishing up her training or whatever. She was my therapist for, like, 15 years, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, she's still, I might have a session with her next week, to be honest.
Oh, great.
So, like.
Hey, Julie.
Hey, Julie. But that was a huge part of it. I knew that I needed that. And I knew that I needed that. I feel like I was mostly depressed over my breakup more than I was depressed over the impending death of my father because it felt unreal to me still. It wasn't yet there. It's like, this isn't really going to happen. The magical thinking part kind of protected me.
Mm-hmm.
But the breakup kind of she obviously was holding that, like, this is going to happen and we should address this a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really helpful, I think. Yeah. She was with me through the whole thing. And I would, like, call her from my dad's house and have a phone session with her. Like, that was part of the promise that I kind of made to myself. I think that I was going to be seeing her. I don't know what made me know to do that. No one was telling me to do that. I think that was my own almost reliance on what she had helped me with in terms of my depression over my breakup. Kind of there was a pattern established of, like, I see her every other week or I see her once a week. And so just, like, I'm going to obviously keep that going while my dad is dying. And every time I talked to her, it would provide something to me. Yeah.
Good for you. I think that's really intuitive and amazing because so many people still don't. I mean, we're in LA and as artists and, you know, you're artist adjacent at this point and you work with tons of artists,
Right.
but we're more in touch and maybe a little bit more open, but I forget how many people find it
Well, there's
taboo.
also I think a lot of people have a stigma for therapists, right?
Absolutely.
Like, only crazy people go there. I'm only going to go for this one thing, or there's nothing wrong with me. Why would I, like? And I think that becomes so commonplace for many of us, especially in big cities, where we're like, it's not a big deal, right?
We all have a therapist
right,
at
right.
this point.
And then other people can think like we're supposed to deal with it on our own, and I think that's such a tough place. Deal with it on our own, and I think that's such a tough place, right? And if it's not a therapist, if it's a support group or something, I think it's so important to find someone who's, or your podcast, right? Like, this is a place someone could be finding support in terms of the conversation of you're not alone in experiencing loss. Everyone you know has experienced loss to some degree. Like, at this point, if they were a child, it may be harder for them to recall it, obviously, but it's statistically impossible that at some point someone doesn't experience loss.
And that's interesting because that's such a good point. I do agree with that. And I also think that there are some people who haven't experienced it to as great of an extent.
Sure, yeah.
So I think that maybe talking with people who have lost someone in a way that was really profound can be helpful to others who have experienced something profound.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what advice you have for young people right now. If they just lost their dad, what might you say to that person?
If the parent just died,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, first of all, I'll say that you know something now that you didn't know before, and you're allowed to own that. That's an important piece. Your friends don't know what you know. You know something about life, and right now it may be a club that you never wanted to have a membership card to, but it's a club that I don't say you need to wear it like a badge of honor, but there's a preciousness to life that you have an awareness for that you didn't have before. And I think that is one of the gifts if you can say that there's a gift out of a loss of a parent, that is one of them, and that you can be with knowing that you know a little something. And I think there's even a mission given to you or an impact given to you is to help the people around you know that, remind them of that. And also, you don't have to do anything when someone dies. There's a big drive to like, what do I do? What do I do? What I do? And the best thing the hospice person said to me, and this is actually a book, so I encourage you to check it out. It's a book called Stay Close and Do Nothing. And I think we're so driven, especially in our culture right now, to do something about stuff. And when you're grieving, and also before the death or after the death, stay close and do nothing is such a great motto. I kept saying it to myself over and over and over again when my dad was dying. There's nothing to be done. I think I cleaned the kitchen like 600 times when I was there because I was like, what am I going to do? I want this kitchen to look nice because my dad's in the kitchen. Like, that was like, that's what and burn a candle and like make it nice, whatever. So staying close and doing nothing is, I think, a way to be with your grief, to just know that you don't have to do anything, but almost even also if you're relating to yourself, just stay close to yourself, right? Stay close and do nothing. And also to not be afraid to say, I don't know how I feel right now, and I don't know what I need right now, but I don't want to be around people. Or I don't know how I feel right now, and I'm hungry, and I want to get food right now. It's a little bit of like, I think when you're grieving the loss of a parent, it's your wedding day every day for a little while.
What does that mean?
So you know how on wedding days you get to say, I want it this way, and it's my way, and I want it, right?
I mean, your wedding, yes.
Right. But it's your own wedding. Like, it's my wedding day. Like, I feel like when you're grieving a parent...
I meant, no, you, Brian Patacca. Your wedding will definitely be like that.
No, I'm talking like Bridezilla style, right? But I think there's a degree
though.
of like when someone's dying or they've died, you get to be a little bit of, I can do a little bit of what I want. You don't get a free pass to be a bad person, but I think you get a little bit of a free pass to say, I know where everyone's going to dinner tonight, but I just need to stay home and watch a movie. Like if the whole family, because if there's a lot of hanging out right after a death happens, there's a lot of family around.
Mm-hmm.
And you're allowed to say, I think I just want to stay home, or I really need to get out of the house. Can we just go to the mall, or like whatever? Like to honor the impulses that you're getting in that moment. I mean, other than of course, if you're having some kind of depressive or suicidal impulse, I would want you to get help. But in terms of your body and what you need for nurturance better than maybe the people around you do at times. So just honoring that, as long as you're eating and sleeping and things like that.
I love that. Right. I love that you mentioned the club you didn't necessarily want a membership to, because I remember when we first met about 6 years ago, oh my gosh, I was like, oh my God, Brian's so cool, and his dad died and my dad also died. We're in the same club. Yay. Do you remember speaking to anyone around that time who had lost someone, and was that person an influence for you positively or negatively?
The people who were most influential to me were professionals. It was the therapist and the hospice worker were the two most helpful to me in that time. And also, like, the podcasts weren't a big thing then. There wasn't as much being able to reach it.
Right. They barely are a big – I mean, now they're a big thing.
Right. But so it wasn't the thing that I could, do that. I had friends who were near me in New York that were very close to me who would talk to me and check in with me. But I don't think that I had anybody near me who had lost a parent. And that's, I think, a different – that kind of left me without, right? Like I said, there was no one to parent me through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my stepmom was trying, and I think that her family, because I was in my dad wasn't even in his hometown, right? So it was mostly her family that we were around as well. But there was something kind of, what's interesting is while my dad died, we were returned to being a family again, right? So my brother, I think really missed out on having the experience of having my dad in his life, because when my parents were divorced was when he was just born. And while my dad was not well was when he lived in the same house as my dad and my stepmom, and this was the first time he really lived. I mean, we visited for long periods, that had happened before, but I think there was like a return to being a family again. So I didn't have a person who'd gone through a death, but I did feel like I had a family again. I think that what's interesting is I think people come to another frequency when someone is dying. They come back to the frequency of family, the truth of who they are, I think, a lot of times, which is, they care about their family the most. We say that we care about our family the most, but I don't know that we always act that way. We don't always take the actions that follow that up. And I think when someone's dying, we suddenly be who we want to be. And that's what I kind of think is what I know about this whole process. You asked what was so rewarding about the whole thing. And there was a reward in, like, I had to say the eulogy at my dad's funeral. And to me, that was a real powerful way of wanting to honor him. I think that was so important.
What was that experience like?
Well, my dad's funeral was an incredible funeral because he was not a particularly religious man, although he was, he was raised Catholic. But we got a big tent in the yard and invited like all the people. And there was a pastor who was obviously, like Christian, but wasn't necessarily like trying to throw religion down anyone's throat. But like we sang a few hymns, and my best friend sang a song, and speaking at it felt very in tune with it, making it our own. So it really honored him.
Do you remember what you said, or?
I mean, what I know is that everyone still talks about this eulogy, so I did a nice job.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally believe it. I wish I could. Is it weird to say I wish I was at your dad's funeral?
Yeah, probably.
Probably weird.
Yeah.
I might not have been born.
You were born.
Okay.
But I mean, there's a VHS tape of it, right?
Was
it's
not
online.
born.
It's online if you want to watch the eulogy.
Is it really?
Yeah.
We should link that.
Well, we can link it. Sure. The eulogy's on there for sure.
Okay.
But I'll say that I kept it together except for when I had to talk about my brother, which I thought was really powerful and telling. my brother and I entered the club on the same day at the same moment.
Mm.
There's something special about that too, right?
And
There's
in
a
the same
bond.
way.
Yeah, and in the same way. And the same person brought us in the club, and my stepmom. So even because my stepmom was there when he actually died, right? Me and my stepmom and I were and my dad, right? My brother wasn't there. And so there's something very special about that bond that's created, I think. And I think that's a reward that comes from it as well. It strengthens the relationship that you have with your family.
Absolutely. You touched a little bit about Christianity, and I was curious to what, if any, spiritual practice surrounding this experience of dying and death do you recall having an influence on you?
I had no spiritual background at all at the time. My parents did not raise me any religion. So I don't have one that I used at all. It was literally talk therapy is what I felt like was my spiritual experience at the time. I didn't have a feeling around God or where my dad was going or heaven or any of that kind of stuff. So I grabbed onto the things that I knew supported me, which was therapy.
I love that.
So that was my spirit. I think spirituality, its highest form, is the same as psychotherapy. So I think that when it's at its best, psychotherapy is the same as what spirituality brings to us. And so to me, that was what I grabbed towards.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, do you recall a certain film, show, or book that impacted you during this time? You had touched on this book. Was that the one? Was there something else?
So there's another book called Father Loss, which I think is an incredible book.
I've never even heard of that.
It's a great book. I think if I remember correctly, I think it's for men who've lost their father or boys who've lost their father.
I love that.
And I remember years later, I would still open it and look at it. It's a really powerful book, very, very helpful. And the other book is, Stay Close and Do Nothing.
I love it. And I'll probably link those somewhere below in the show notes because that sounds really helpful. You're a life coach. You change so many people's lives. Do you think some part of this experience, watching your father die, impacted the career you've chosen today?
I don't know. Here's what I say. I was always interested in making my father proud, but it was always such a surprise that it was always like, well, he doesn't really care. Like, he didn't care exactly what it was that I did that made him proud, right? He wasn't like, be this and it'll make me proud. He was a little bit of a workaholic. So there's a part of me that knows that sustaining my life and making it in my own way, which I think, like, when you say you're a life coach, people look at you like you're a cat whisperer or something, or like a cat psychic. Like what does that even mean, right? They think, like, how can you make your living? Like, what do you do? Suck on crystals?
And for the record, Brian does absolutely make a living as a life coach / cat whisperer.
Yeah. Yes. And so I think that would really thrill him. And so when I have a big success with that work, I do feel a sense of, like, my dad's proud, I would say. Yeah. I don't know that it had anything to do with it. I would say this. I will say that my spiritual journey has had a lot to do with me being a life coach, and you cannot say that part of my spiritual journey hasn't been losing my father.
This episode is brought to you by Ballsy, a fun, playful, and never boring brand that makes everyday body wash products engaging for both men and women to use and talk about. So I've been dating my boyfriend for several years now, and Valentine's Day is coming up. I've kind of gotten him everything at this point. We've done watches, we've done the spa, we've done getaways, we've done restaurants. You run out after a certain point. With V-Day coming up, I specifically wanted to mention the I'm Nuts About You gift set. It comes with 3 products. One of them is called Ball Wash. Ya heard it here first. It's an activated charcoal wash. There's essential oils and plant extracts. It smells really good, and the name is funny. LOL. Are you funny as a couple? Are you funny as a person? Is he funny as a person? Do you wish he was funny as a person? I have already bought one for Corey. There's also a nut rub. There's also a sack spray, which is a portable deodorizing spray. It's under $50. The price point's actually $45, but LAUGH20 gets you 20% off. Again, the code is LAUGH20, so you'll save $9. If there's no parabens in their products, there's no sulfates, and there's no synthetic dyes. That's personally really important to me. The product is made in the USA, so we're giving our peeps jobs. It's cruelty-free, and there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee. Check out ballwash.com for your man for V-Day. Holla for $1. Happy V-Day, y'all.
And I have a little bit of a cold today, so you guys, my voice sounds really weird, so I want to acknowledge that
I know.
right away.
You know, you're such a trooper. We so appreciate you coming, even though you're not feeling well, just casually talking about the deepest, darkest depths of your soul.
Which is why maybe I sound a little removed from my brain's cloudy. Good.
Oh, no, you sound great and
Good.
intimate and fabulous. And moving forward, what can we expect from the fabulous Brian Patacca? What's next for you? Brian hates me that I ask. Why is that a bad question?
So bad.
Okay, we might not say that.
Having done like 10
Okay.
podcasts at this point, I think you just asked me how you people can stay in touch with me.
Great. Okay, wait, I thought of one more thing.
That's not a bad question. I guess I just like, I have no answer. Let's move on to something else.
Okay, wait, I have one thing I thought of.
Okay.
Is there a particularly comedic moment? Is there something that stands out during your journey of death that was really funny or obscure?
I mean, there's a few things. One is when my dad decided that he was well enough to drive his tractor around the yard, and my brother like is calling me and like, Dad's on the tractor. I'm like, what are you talking? Like the week before, he's in the bed and can't walk. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's out here telling me what to do and trying to mow the lawn. And apparently my stepmom came over and goes, get off that tractor and get him back in the bed. And be like, just because you feel good doesn't mean you get to whump around the yard and be like, Mister, everything's fine again. So that was pretty good. And then what else?
Love it.
That was a good one. And then there was another time when he, apparently I wasn't there, but he made all of Michelle's family come in the room one at a time and say goodbye to them, which isn't funny, but I think that's very poignant, I guess. And then I'm trying to think if there's any other funny thing. I mean, there was a time when, like, I think that when he would tell us to move things around the kitchen, it was kind of funny. We'd be like, no, Dad, the chair's fine. The chair is fine exactly where it is. It's going to be great. Like, we'd have to really, like, talk him down off the ledge a little bit. That was kind of fun.
My dad asked me to feed him a sandwich, only there was no fridge. So I opened a fridge that didn't exist and fed him invisible sandwiches. So
No, you didn't.
No, oh yeah, absolutely. So
Did he invisibly chew or did he visibly chew?
he couldn't move.
Got it.
So
Right.
we just fed it to the, I don't even know what. That should be its own episode.
That's his own
truly.
episode. So great.
How much about his particular kind of cancer were you aware of? How much did you talk about cancer versus dying?
You know, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, it was, it was lung cancer, and he was a smoker. And so I was pissed. I was like, blamed him a little bit. And like, he'd always been smoking my whole life. Lark cigarettes, I remember. I didn't know that much about cancer. And then when I would say it to other people, they'd be like, oh, lung cancer. Then we knew it was bad. And I guess lung cancer goes to your brain. So I didn't really know a lot about his disease, right? I just knew cancer, the big C. So I never got to like go to lots of doctor's appointments or whatever. And my stepmother would fill me in, but I really wasn't like in the know about what was about what
my
was going
phone
on.
just fell on the ground. That is so creepy. Do you think there's like a ghost?
No,
in
because I
here?
think that it's because that table was not flat.
All right. We should have asked your dad to help us move it.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I interrupted a poignant moment.
That's it.
Okay. Is there anything that you do that is preventative with your own health? You're very in shape.
No,
Working
I hurt
out.
my back right now. Can't work out right now. It's a whole thing. It's the most miserable life right now. But how do I keep myself alive? Is that what you're asking? I suck the blood of 20 vessel virgins
Oh my God.
like a vampire.
No, that is insane. No, I was going to ask, do you think about his lung cancer and how does that affect you? Do you take
I'm the most in
preventative-
shape person in my entire family. I ain't worried about it.
But is it because of your dad or that's just your own choice?
It's not because of my dad.
Okay.
I think that I have more of a tendency to like be a little bit like, oh, do I have a tendency since my dad did to
Right.
think about it a little bit? But I don't think I do it I don't have a like, oh my God, I need to beat death because I got my dad. I don't have any, we do not go gentle into that good night. Go to CrossFit instead. I don't have any craziness like that.
Do you get regularly checked by your doctor?
For what?
I'm just checking.
I'm not
Some
at an
people-
age where I'm supposed to get checked for anything. Literally, you can't put your finger at my butt and feel for prostate cancer. I'm too young for that. There's no colonoscopy yet. It's too young for that. So really, you can check me for HPV, and I have it. Everyone has HPV.
You know, that's so helpful because I actually was texting last night with
Someone who has HPV.
a couple people on the same day.
It's scary,
Were telling me about their HPV.
Yeah, there's different kinds, right? There's like 3 different strains of it, whatever, and I have the most likely to cause cancer kind.
Oh.
And so my doctor has me on a special like thing that we're doing to minimize. Or
What is
whatever.
the special thing?
It's a shot, maybe. I have to do it once a year, so it's not very memorable, obviously.
Well, thank you for being honest about that,
Yep.
and I hope that encourages
Every
other people.
boy in the world has HPV. Stay away, ladies and men.
Well, men, you cannot test them for it, right?
No,
Wait,
you
how do
can
you know
now.
you have
used to
it?
be able to
you
not.
can.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of female
They
friends.
put a Christmas tree up your butt and spin it around.
Oh my goodness!
Well, not really
Merry
a Christmas tree. No, but like
Christmas.
it looks like a little Q-tip, but it looks like a little white Christmas tree on the end. And they
Oh.
stick it in there, spin around.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
how does that feel?
Not good.
Okay, great. Well, a lot of my female friends find out they have HPV and they're like, oh, surprise. And they can't even tell the guy, just so you know, you have HPV because they don't know who it is because the men don't know that they have it.
Right.
So that's great that you know that you have it and that you're taking preventative steps to prevent cancer and other things. So that's really great.
Well, thank you.
We're here. We're being open and honest on Dying with Laughter. We also talk about butt plug Christmas tree realness and we serve it up.
Not butt plugs.
Butt plugs is not where we're going with
No,
this.
not really.
Okay, great. Is there any other last thoughts that come to mind?
I think that the funniest parts of being around death have to do with your perspective on being in life. And so I think that's the most important thing when it comes to being around someone dying is one of the things that mission was to make sure that we had life in the house while he was dying. You know, it was the summer. He died in August. So the doors open and the breeze is coming in and it's bright and we make sounds and we play music and we're around each other. So that was why it was so important that he was in the kitchen and not in a bedroom somewhere we had to visit. It was actually a room that was lots of energy in, and he obviously could sleep because we would leave him alone. But I think that being in life is such a big part of, especially when someone's going through a death as opposed to like a car accident, right? But when someone is dying, that you can be in life while they're dying.
Yodo, you only die once.
Yodo.
You did not look happy
My
when
mother's
you said that.
mother's name is Doreen, so I would say Yodo because we call her Doe.
So Doreen, Yoda. Oh, what does that mean about Doreen? I don't know. What does that mean? What does that mean? Doreen, Yodo,
Doreen's peen,
Yodo.
Doreen's peen.
Doreen does not have a peen.
No, but if she had a boyfriend,
He would have a peen. Oh, and she would call it Doreen's peen.
she probably would not.
Your
call it
mother
that.
is probably not okay with this.
No,
happening.
nope, definitely not.
Brian's mother is so fabulous, by the way.
Thanks,
I
we're happy to hear
absolutely
it.
adore her. Great. So if people want to learn more about you, Brian, what is your website and your Instagram?
Right, so it's BrianPatacca.com, BRIAN, not Brain. People call me Brain all the time. They don't call me it. They spell it that way. Brian Patacca, Patacca. Or Instagram is even easier. I'm Brian Says That on Instagram.
What do you say?
I say a lot of things. That's why I put them on Instagram. Brian
Oh.
Says That. Oh, Brian Says That? Oh, okay.
Brian says that. Brian says that. Getting down like that. Brian says that. What?
It's been really great to see you, Chelsea. And I'm also going to share with all of your audience, no matter what their business they're in, I have a fabulous freebie that I'm giving all of them, which is I think that a lot of us who are creative, and I'm imagining some people listening might be creative or might care about money one iota. This freebie where you can download this app. It's not an app. It's a document that helps you manage your money. And I'm a person who was scared to look at money. And this was the first tiptoeing I did into looking at how to take control of the money in my pocketbook and not make myself crazy. I also don't carry a pocketbook. But I'll give you a link for that so you can share that with your audience.
That is so nice.
For sure.
It has nothing to do with death, but everyone alive cares about money. So it's connected.
There you go.
Great. Oh, what a dime piece you are. Is that a good money
I think a
fund?
dime
Maybe
piece is not a thing.
All right. And thank you for coming while you were sick.
For sure. I'm really glad to be here. I hope that it makes some iota of help in the world for those of us who are suffering loss or about to suffer loss even. I think this is a helpful podcast to listen to.
Hashtag Dead Dads Club.
Yeah.
Hashtag. You
Is
really
that
like?
really a hashtag Dead Dads Club?
I don't know. I really wanted this podcast to be called Dead Dads Club, but I'm like, what about the people who lost someone else and then it's exclusive? And we really want to be inclusive.
We really want to be the
here.
DDC.
What is that?
The Dead
Dead
Dads
Dads Club. We actually kind of do. You also really like the word one iota lately. Like you've said the word iota so many times today.
Iota Marcos.
What does that
Imelda
mean?
Marcos, the
What does
sister.
that mean?
Imelda Marcos.
We don't know what's
sister.
happening. Okay, someone needs to turn us off or we'll just keep going forever.
Until we die.
Until we die. Good one.
Haha. What an episode, y'all. We sucked the blood. You'll only understand that if you were there the entire time. This blooper's really funny. It's a long bio, but it's funny, so I'm going to leave it here. If you're into it, to receive Brian's free finance sheet, text Love Money to number 44222. Again, to download his Creative Income Money free finance sheet, text Love Money to number 44222. Love Money is one word, LOVEMONEY. And again, that's 44222, 2 number 4s, 3 number 2s. The best way to book Brian as a coach is you can email brian@brianpatacca.com, brian@brianpatacca.com, PATACCA. And I will also link his father's eulogy in the show notes of this episode. Thanks for hanging today, and happy birthday to Lloyd, my dead, fabulous dad. Love you. Thanks for your feedback so far. Please email me, DyingOfLaughterPodcast@gmail.com, if you have any suggestions for how the show can improve or what you like so far. You could also talk to me on Instagram @_ChelsWhoElse_. And of course, please leave a review. It means a lot to me, and it's fun to hear from you, and it really helps, and I appreciate it. Okay, bye-bye. Bloopers, 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 bloopers.
Okie doke, and we will be experimenting with so many things today. This is the first time we are recording with Dying with Laughter. How thrilling! Brian's like, just get to it. I have things to do, but that's cool. So I'm going to start all of my interviews off by reading the bio of the person aloud. So I will be reading out your bio.
You never asked me for one. What one are you using? I have a very official.
I emailed you this morning. I did not get a response. I got 0 back.
It's Saturday. I don't work on Saturday.
It's Sunday, so
Sunday.
have a look.
Do you want a good one?
I mean, sure.
I mean, I can get you a good one right now. You can't use a shitty one. I would not allow it.
Oh, well, then we'll just wait. Brian is searching his phone for a bio.
You don't need to talk. No one's going to record this part.
You never.
No one's going to listen to this part.
You might be surprised.
Oh, please. I have the perfect bio.
Okay. Well, are you going to text it to me? Because I can't just read.
It has to open.
Over the room.
I'm going to connect to their Wi-Fi, I guess. So hold on. It's all happening. Everything's doing great. Everyone's doing great. Everyone's doing great. Is everyone doing great? Everyone's doing great.
It's so exciting when people show up 20 minutes late and then make me wait for them to open their bio, even though I have a bio right in front of me.
It probably says a stupid bunch of actor things.
Well, we might have to move on from this, okay? Do you want to send it to me? Because I'm
reading. I just read it?
No, I'm practicing what I'm doing.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, also, it's also sent to you, so if you decide to join me midway through, it's in your email, like, right now. So
oh, my gosh. Should we read it together?
Let's read it together. You cut me off when you're ready, okay? And
Wait. I didn't get an email from you.
It's happening now.
You never want to email me at any point. Where is it?
It's a share.
It's a share?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Who has time?
It literally has your face right here.
Why is my face on your bio?
Because it happens when you do an access.
This is a problem. Well, what do you know? The same exact bio that I pulled is the one that you just sent to me. That is how long it was.
How'd you get it?
Because I know what I'm doing.
Where did you get it from?
I searched and I digged and I was like, I know he's going to be pissed if I have a bad bio.
But I need to know where it exists.
I don't recall.
Okay, you're a horrible person.
All right, let's read the bio together, shall we?
No, you can just read it. I'll just listen, and I'll correct things if there's mistakes.
Oh, in your own bio?
Yeah.
Let's just be clear that would be your mistake and not mine. It's so huge it doesn't even load. All right, give me a moment. Welcome to the show, everyone. Brian is a life, career, and business coach and spiritual practitioner for creative individuals of all disciplines. In addition to guest teaching and speaking all over the world, Brian will be recognized by the state of California as a reverend by the fall of next year. He is a spiritual practitioner in the tradition of A Course of Miracles and credits the work of Brene Brown, Anne Lamott. I don't know. Who is this next person?
Pema Chondron?
Chondron?
Yeah.
That's literally Chelsea London. That's like my name combined. She's now Chondron.
She's a super famous Buddhist.
Okay. Guess I can't say that. Who cares where you credit the work to? Where's your work? I don't care who you credit it from. This is about you.
This is a real fun
All
time.
right. He credits the work of Brene Brown, Anne Lamott, Pema Chodron, and Elizabeth Gilbert as foundations to the outlook on the world. I'm already exhausted. All right, let's continue. With infectious energy and a no-nonsense approach, Brian Patacca brings a healthy dose of enthusiasm to a creative professional's career, life, and business. With natural candor and an education from Northwestern University, Brian arrived in New York City and quickly climbed the ladder as an advertising executive promoting Broadway shows. During this time, his path of career coaching was revealed. In 2001, he started Actor Salon, an accountability group and creative community for actors. Actor Salon has grown to include weekly in-person and virtual meetings in New York, Los Angeles, and Atlanta, providing a community built on supportive group coaching and accountability that empowers creative individuals to get results. Notably, he coached 2 young actresses on MTV's Emmy Award-winning show Made in 2012 and has been a contributing expert for Backstage magazine for over a decade. Yep, it's still going. Brian has taught extensively in collegiate, corporate, and spiritual forums ranging from Northwestern University to the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association to the Actor Center in London. He's completed CTI's Go Active Coach Training. Why is the program half the episode? He has completed CTI's Go Active Coach Training Program and Marianne Williamson's Teaching the Teachers Training. In addition to extensive teaching and coaching, he is creator of the Intimate Income Tracking Tool for anyone who cares a penny about their pocketbook. To snag this free resource, click here. That's super helpful to have mentioned that since they are listening and not clicking. Now based in Los Angeles, Brian coaches one-on-one and in Actor Salon, as well as nationwide in his new web-based course, Your Audition Magnet. He travels as an educator and speaker and continues to connect with clients who thrive at the intersection of art and commerce. For more information, please visit www.brianpatacca.com. If you're still here, the episode is now over because that was the entire amount of time.
I mean,
that
you
we
should
had.
have edited it to the one you wanted to say. That's the
Oh, do you not think that's exactly what I did? I literally took that, edited it down, and then you walked in and was like, you don't know how to read a bio. Well, my whole episode was reading your bio.
Good talk.
Also, please note, the next page is the quickie short bio, which was the perfect length.
Good, you want to do it?
Well, I mean, no one's even listening anymore, so there's no time. It's like, all right.
You know what? They all died.
The podcast where we make jokes about people dying. No, seriously, that's what we're going to do. Some people might be really offended by this, don't you think?
Maybe.
Well,
I think they've stopped listening.